Okay, whoa. We are back with another one. Seems like it's a good week. We had, what was it, Memorial Day yesterday?
It was Memorial Day. It seemed like a quiet Memorial Day too.
It
It
really did.
it just I think people are still getting used to actually coming out. Like it depended on where you were at. Like some parts of town were like completely dead, and then other parts look like, oh, it's dead because everybody went to that one location. So I don't know. Like I saw some pool parties that were like packed, and then I saw some others where they was like, where's everybody
Was
at?
it some or was it that one?
It was
Every
that
time
one.
I see pool parties,
That one looked impressive.
yeah,
It looked
that one looked, I
massive.
was like, oh, you were there? You were there?
It was a
You were
massive
there?
pool
You
party.
were there? Like, I was like, that was one pool party.
It was a big party. It was a
It
big
was a
party.
big party. It was a
But
really big.
I think people are now getting used to the idea of coming back out, even though we are, again, still in COVID. COVID's still happening, but we gonna, hey, people just
Usually,
gonna,
other people are outside for the worst time of the year. I hate summertime.
with
Oh God, it's hot. It does not feel good. It's not comfortable. Every thought thing that you want to do, you can do every other time of the year. You don't need summertime for that. Spring, prime season. Fall, great. We live in Houston. Winter, if you put it all together, winter is like a month and a half. So it's really not that bad. But summer's like 5 months in Houston. The worst. I hate this.
yeah,
I'm already uncomfortable.
I would be cool because people are like, oh, you like cold weather. I'm like, nah, I mean, I like spring. Like
Mm-hmm.
spring real cool, but spring be here for a moment and then the heat just jumps on people. Like I'm like, okay, it's 108. All right, that's cool.
Humidity, bro.
People be cool with it. But what's your plans for the summer?
Uh, I don't know. Let's see. We have things that we have to do.
I'm trying to
The
see. I'm
press
trying to see.
junket.
I'm trying to see Kendrick Lamar. Oh, the
Oh,
press
definitely.
junket, of course. Press junket.
Yeah.
Loud press
Kendrick
junket that is
Lamar,
coming up.
the what's
Kendrick
his name?
Lamar.
Kevin Hart. There's so much stuff that's going on. So, like, of course, I do want to see Kendrick Lamar. I mean, that'll be my first Kendrick concert. The only time I've ever seen Kendrick on stage was at a Beyonce concert. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to see some Kendrick. Ready
And
to,
then who else? Denzel Curry. There are a few people coming out.
yeah, it's a lot.
There are a few
I
people
wanted to
coming
see
out.
that the Joe Budden podcast tour, but they ain't selling no tickets. That's
They're
terrible.
not selling tickets.
Bro, this is what happened, bro. They were supposed to come here, like the second stop, and then they were like, "Oh, we back and back because we want to regroup." They ain't sell like they ain't sell a third of the tickets they
They
used
must
to.
not have sold the tickets. It's been
That's what it was.
like no, no. Hey, look,
I said start on the
we are
East Coast.
we are a fledgling podcast, but the Joe Budden podcast is just like I've never seen them just the division of the two groups. It's like they just threw away all the chemistry. I
Really
haven't
did.
really watched it since the big split, so I do need to go back and be like, all right, let me sit down with this. But I was like, I knew all the original cast, and now I'm like, it's like Joe Budden and the guys, and so I'm like, all
Joe
right,
Budden and friends.
that's really what it seems like. And even though they changed that, that first podcast to the Joe Budden podcast, it was still like, oh, it's Joe Budden with Rory and Mal and your
And
boy, the
Parks.
producer, Parks. So yeah, but they're not coming out. But you know what? Poor Minds
Poor
is
Minds is
coming.
doing their show.
So they are coming out. That's at least that's a podcast I definitely want to see live. I just want to see
Sure.
what they out about. But yeah, yeah.
There's a lot going on this summer, a lot going on with the culture. And we talk about the culture all the time. Kanye hates it, Kendrick questions it, and the Migos sell it. And one of them's the father of it. But when you ask me about the culture, when you ask me about the culture, hip hop culture, that is, it's shaped and founded by the DJ, more specifically, breaking artists, breaking records. And, if you really want to find out what's hot, you really just got to follow what the DJ is doing. I mean, in order to know what's going on, you got to listen to the DJ, follow what it is, because you might think something's popular, and then you go out and you listen to what's spinning and you watch the crowd. They know. Even when we talk about Todd talks about not being cool all the time, but he knows what's popping because the DJ knows what's going on in the streets. Today, we're speaking with not only a DJ, we have somebody who's interested, who has his hands in sports, music. He's a professor, plant-based student, doctoral student who's running the music department at HTC. Representing BPM Music Group, Beat This Music, Christopher Cruize Williams. DJ Cruize, ladies and gentlemen, DJ Cruize. How you doing today?
Welcome, man. Welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
How's it going?
I'm good, man. I was sitting up here vibing to y'all conversation, man. I had to agree with you on that summer, that Houston summer heat. It's ridiculous.
It's the worst.
It's
the worst.
This is too bad. This is too bad. Too shower season, as I call it. You know,
right, and it makes you not want to do anything. Like it's one of those things where, yeah. When you're out, it's like, yo, you can't go from stop to stop. You like, I gotta go home, take a shower, come back out.
Right.
Go home, take a shower, come back out. And I mean, I feel like California people don't get this because I didn't get it till I went to California. It's hot at night here. Yes. And like when California get hot, once the sun sets, it's like, it's real nice. And I was like, oh, like this is nice. Cool. It's almost like it's almost cool. Chilly. I need to get a jacket.
It's cool. Wear a jacket.
I need to get a jacket. Yeah, not here. Here it'd be 2:00 in the morning and it's 98 degrees and it's been cooling down. And you're like, yo, nah, man, I can't do this. So
Avery, I agree with you.
What was it like? What'd you wind up doing for Memorial Day?
What did I? So yesterday, nothing.
It's been a weird Memorial Day. Like some people are like, nothing.
I think we went to eat crawfish because I had the DJ the night before for kind of a kickback at one of the event planners here in Houston. She had a kind of a Memorial Day kickback on Sunday, and I think I DJ from like 6 to midnight. So my wife and I were there, and we just kind of chilled out yesterday. Didn't do anything, but just go wake up and eat crawfish, man.
I can understand. You worked hard. I don't think people understand, like, the DJ's responsibility is you are the party. And if you make one mistake, they're going to blame the whole thing on you. So you have to be in the moment where everybody, I'm drinking, I'm having, should we be having fun? They're like, no. If I play the wrong song, I could play, there's a point in time where I could play, Soulja Boy Tell 'Em. But if I miss that time, I can't play it at the night. Like, I need this window. I got to be cognizant. So my hat goes off to you.
Yeah, so it was funny that night. I was the caterer, right? And he was kind of like, Chris, man, it's like two things that's really important for an event: the food and the music, right? Because that's what people remember. They don't remember what you had on. They don't remember anything else. They might say, oh yeah, it's beautiful in here, but man, that DJ didn't play my song. He sucks. That food, that chicken was nasty. It was cold. It was too, and so I'm just like, man, our job, it's not difficult. It's fun for me. It's not work. But it can get a little stressful, kind of depending on the environment that you're in. That's why I just kind of like shied away from doing clubs, more activations, brand initiative type events, stuff like, South by, or doing something like, DJing at South by, things like that. But as far as clubs, man, I'm too old. Two, just the evolution of the music is just not palatable to me right now. So I'm just kind of on another realm of the music industry at this point. So
it makes perfect sense, though. Did you like let's I mean, we usually talk about starting off from the beginning, from when people were DJing, but even before that, during that, did you ever DJ in clubs?
Yeah, absolutely, man. what can and can I not say on here?
You
So
can say whatever
you
you
can say
want.
you can say whatever.
I
You
can
can
say
say
whatever I
whatever.
want. All right,
Say
so
whatever.
check it out. So the story was this. First, my very first gig was at a Catholic church. I was DJing with I'm from Beaumont, right? And
Okay.
so
Okay, I get it now.
and so what is like the bazaars and all that kind of stuff that happens in the Catholic Church. I think in the Catholic Church. It was a youth party, and it was a friend of mine. I brought my house speakers, and he had his receiver and tape deck, and we literally were DJing with tapes. I don't know. You get it. And so it just I was like, man, this is cool. And so I just kept on. He stopped doing it, but I just kept doing it. But my very first like real gig was at a I guess a drag club.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was my very first event that I had ever done. And a friend, the guy who owned it, he was like, man, you should go ahead and just come DJ here, man. Trust me, it'll be great. And man, it just kind of evolved from there. I never did those type of clubs again, but I went from doing that to, I don't know if you guys remember Monday Night Football at Cabo's back in the day. I did I was a resident at Cabo's for years, and then
Really?
for years, man.
Great job. Great job.
And started DJing, I did the M Bar. I was with
M-Bar?
the Red, I
Great
was
job.
at Red Door. I was and not being from here, it was, and then I kind of moved around, man. My story is kind of crazy, man. Not crazy, but I've moved around a whole lot just in respect of the sports world, as well as from being a professional athlete to to coming back home and really getting and dabbling into music. So it's been a journey. It's a long story, man. It's like
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. Let's go back and talk. Let's go back and talk about that story. So talk about like moving into that world of professional athlete and then transitioning out of it. What sport were you playing?
Well, baseball. Yeah, I'm a baseball guy, and was injured, but I was signed as a free agent with the Red Sox. And played, I was of course, in their minor league system, got in a car accident, and I was done. But, prior to that, I served this country, our great country that we live in. So I am a veteran, and I played ball in the Army as well. But even before that, in 91, I was at Prairie View. So that's why I got my start and my finish. And so I navigated the system that way. My eligibility stopped when I went to the service to play ball. And so, I was drafted out of high school, but I didn't go. I decided to go to college. McNeese was my first college. I went to college that summer, and I didn't like the campus. And I ended up at Prairie View and got a scholarship there. The rest was history. But I got in a car accident, man. I had to decide what I wanted to do, what was next for me, because my life was baseball. Imagine growing up playing baseball since you were 5 years old, and it's taken away from you, right? And so, what was next? And so, what I decided to do was, music had always been in my system. My mom, I think everybody's mom introduced them to some type of music. Mine, I was on, back then, that's all we really had was disco music I was listening to in the 70s, music that I could really adapt to and remember. Because hip hop really didn't flourish until the late 70s, early 80s, when we got hip hop down this way, down south. And so, I was always into the disco, the R&B. I had the boom box, and that's where my palette and my catalog for music was just I became a crate digger. And so if I turn my camera around, you'll see I have a few albums, kind of a display of a whole lot of old records, man. But all types of music I love. And and that is the other reason, kind of going back to my point earlier about why I don't really DJ in the club, is because of that palette for music, man. I just have a very broad range of music that I like to spin on my own, on my own format. So no matter if it's hip hop, no matter if it's R&B, no matter if it's now considered Afro beats, but going back even to, the reggae, to jazz, to to early pop, disco, house, soul house. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, it's music, and that's what I love, and even listening to, music from from Europe and how that music has evolved. Like, I mean, it's just so many different areas of music that I love. And I just don't like to be pigeonholed. I don't understand why I have to play something for somebody. They just heard it when they got out the car, and I have to play it 5 minutes later, them coming into the spot.
Man.
So,
do you feel like, well, do you feel like, were you already collecting a lot of music, and then that's like, hey, I already have this large vinyl collection, and that led you towards DJing, or did you just have this itch for DJing already?
Well, that's a really great question. I just had the music because it was my friend of mine was like, man, I know you can DJ because you know music. Like I was the guy that would, I could hear a song. Like I was Shazam before Shazam was even around, for the most part, but now it's so much music. Like I don't know everything, but it, like it's inquisitive when I hear samples, like, I don't know where that sample came from. And I'll play it with the original song. And people think the song that I'm playing was actually the original. Like, well, no, it's not. I mean, that's how I like to DJ, And so to answer your question, it just made DJing made me evolve musically.
Do you think, and you were talking about like you kind of moved away from the club because, I mean, I'm with you. Like you just heard that song in the car. The club is top 40 radio basically. And
That's it.
You just heard top 40 radio in the car. But do you feel like that's changing? Like, I know people make critiques about TikTok and things like that, but kids are listening to old music now. The majority of music for the first time in history that's getting played and popularized is older. I was just looking at an article of I forgot it was an older singer. It's released a song in 84. It just went to #1 because it was on the soundtrack to Stranger Things. And it's in a pivotal part of Stranger Things. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I know that. And you go look, and now everybody's playing that song. And it's like, this was a good song 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, and it's still a good song now. You're just getting it introduced to a whole new audience. Do you feel, given the style of the way you DJ, where you're taking, the original song and showing like this is where the sample came from, do you feel like there's a groundswell where more people are like, yo, that's what I want to hear?
Yes. But there's specific environments in which you have to play that. It's very difficult to go into, let's just say, what's the new spot? Y'all were talking about pool parties earlier. So like, what is it called? Sakai? Is that the new spot?
Yeah.
Me playing, Foster Silver, and then coming back and playing what's his name? Foster Silver. I'm playing look, out the top of my head, I'm having in the moment, I'm having a brain fart right now. It's funky enough. It's funky. And Foster Silver is that's the sample. if I played that song in the club, people like in a top 40 club.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I understand
what,
that.
what are you doing?
There's a great I don't know if it
Yeah.
was somebody from Griselda. It was either West Side Gun or Benny the Butcher that was like, I'd be in the strip club and the DJ come up and be like, "Hey, what song of yours do you want me to play?" And he's like, "Nothing." Like, no,
Right.
don't play my music in the strip club, dog. I'm trying to have fun.
Yeah.
You're like,
Right.
oh, okay. So yeah,
Right.
there's a time and a place for everything.
Time and the place. And
There's
so
definitely a time and a place.
yeah, and
On the
so
right
that just
crowd.
kind of what I'm loving about Houston is that we have a few DJs that are out here that's cultivating that environment. Um Flash, I don't know if you guys know Flash Gordon
Flash
Parks.
Gordon Parks,
Yeah, Flash and
Waxaholics.
yeah, Nimbus, DJ Nimbus.
Yes.
Those cats are doing a phenomenal job um in cultivating that environment. But understanding, if you look at all those DJs, they have to create their own events to
And
do it.
that's what I was gonna say, because the DJs we're naming, and there are others. They have these pockets of like, oh, this is my party. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, like I gotta go out here. Like there's this they do more of a techno, but they're once a month. But it's like,
Yeah.
when I go out there, I'm going to see these two DJs, or I'm going to the flat because I'm gonna go see this DJ,
Right.
or I'm going
Right.
here because I gotta see this DJ, and they're creating. So it's not like, oh, I just pulled up at the club and they was there.
Right. Right. And so that's the difficult part of Houston, right? No, I love the city. That's the difficult part because it's slow. But if you take this same DJ and inject it in LA, take this same DJ and inject it in Miami, take this same DJ, inject it in New York, where there's an international crowd. Not saying that they don't have it here in Houston, not saying that at all. You realistically have to go into the heart of the city and find it, versus pretty much every club you go to in all other parts, the three cities, three cities that I named, pretty much pop up in any spot.
Yeah.
And the DJ is wrecking.
Pretty
that
much.
Open format.
Mhm.
And it's different. Yeah, it is different here because you got to know where to, like
Mhm.
what the two DJs I'm thinking of. I can't. They have a party at the Shrine of the Black Madonna, or what it used to be called.
Yeah,
Shrine of the Black Madonna.
that's Soul Control.
Soul Control. But then it's
Yeah.
like you'll pop up someplace and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see this DJ. They're in a warehouse / suit factory, and you're like,
Right.
what? Like, and then you show up and it's a packed party. But it's like you had to know or know somebody that knew of this to bring you out here.
Exactly. But understand where my niche is. Just take all those DJs and put it into one person.
Ah, okay.
For real.
Okay.
And I will go into a space and I will play what I want to hear. Let me not say what I want to hear. I'm going to play to my crowd, but it's about the experience. Music is I'm called Cruise Control for a reason. And what's crazy, the other night at that event that I was telling you guys about, I did Sunday, the caterer was like, hey man, like, and he didn't even know my name. He was like, it just seems like you took us from this part of the country to this part of the country. I said, yeah, that is what I try to do, no matter who's in the audience, right? It's about introducing people to new music. You guys said it earlier, breaking artists, breaking music. I don't just have to break top 40 hip hop. The radio stations do that all day long, but what about, the cats who's been in the game a long time, like the Eric Robersons, the foreign exchange, I'll even go like Big Crit, like all these guys who can really, that are sonically really great artists, but because they're not shaking this or doing this, yada yada yada, then it kind of leaves us leaves them in the background. And, I take like even Devin the dude. Devin's been around for a long time, man. A long time. And Devin, to me, is one of the dopest MCs that's in Houston. Honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's not, his commercial appeal is not there. So you won't hear stuff in the club. Take a Toby Wigway. Do I need to say more?
Yeah.
Right. But you're not going to hear his music in the club. But if you spin it in a set, people are like, yo, like, who is this? Like, bro, that's Toby. You don't know who that is? Like, no. So it's just, it just, the DJ is, there's various types of DJs, and, my niche is just trying to, I'm an open format, I will throw in a piece of Kirk Franklin if I have to. I mean, it's music.
Yeah.
Right? It's a universal language, and music charms the soul. It touches it. And so, I don't believe in genres, but, I know we have to for the sake of awards, but I don't believe in genres. Music is what it is.
No, absolutely. There's also, I mean, even the artists you name, where you're talking about Toby or Devin or Big Crit, who just had a concert here that was fantastic. It's you'll see them in concert or in shows, and their concerts are packed. They're selling everything. Everything is great, but it's like that translation over to radio. Always, and these are not even the artists we're naming. These are people that make radio songs.
Yeah.
Like these songs could play. When we were at the Toby concert, I'm like, Doug, these songs could play on the radio quite easily. Quite easily. So there's no reason why. Well, there are reasons why, but that's what we gotta get into. Like, did you ever have any inclination to go to radio, or is the way that radio is structured one of the reasons why you stayed away from it?
Never did.
Never did.
Was asked to, but never wanted to. I couldn't, because I would have, and I'm even validating it more now, because I know we'll probably talk about this, but even as a music exec, and I'm dealing with radio for artists, right? And I'm still trying to understand. I understand the why, but the system, urban radio is systemic, man. It's systemic. It's all about the dollar.
Oh no, I'm with you.
Read through the lines, because I have to do business, right? But I really, I'm just like, what? So I'm gonna go on record and say this. I was watching an Instagram live from you guys are familiar with the GM of 97, Radio 1 here in Houston. 97.
Yes.
So I'm not
the Empire. Yeah.
So she basically made a comment, and I raised my eyebrows. It was true in what she said commercially, but I still didn't agree. And basically, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing, she said, why do we need to play your record, but how to get your record on radio, you realistically have to have movement, which I totally agree, right? But because the way terrestrial radio is moving, like the direction, I highly recommend artists go down the digital radio format, because one, is a longer reach, and they're also, they report as well, and they pay out royalties. And so of course, terrestrial radio does the same. But it's so, what's the word? there's so much that goes into getting into terrestrial radio still to this day. It's almost like, why go through it unless you're just trying to be a commercial artist?
Mhm.
It's only for those that really want to be a commercial act. Because like you said, Vaughn, you listen to Toby, you listen to Crit, and Crit has some songs that periodically, he probably has regional play with
Yeah.
where where he's from, the areas he's from. But you take a song, let's just take a Toby song. I mean, even the song he had with Pow Wow.
Mhm.
Why couldn't that? Why did that song not make it to radio?
Why not? Exactly.
I was surprised that the Paul Wall song or Purple Rain didn't make it
Exactly.
to radio, because then when we saw the 713 Music Hall is large. It's a large venue.
Mm-hmm.
He sold that out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, if you're able
So
to
that's
sell
movement,
that
right?
out,
That's
that's what I'm
movement,
saying.
right?
That is a definite
Okay.
that's definite movement. And so then it's like, all right, so if it's, I'm like, this is appealing to at least 5,000 people. 5,000 people got, and that says a lot to me, because I'm like, my brother and I will talk about the stars of today that'll say, oh, I got this many albums sold or this many spins. And I'm like, it's kind of like, like in 99, DMX put out 2 albums and they both went platinum. And at that Woodstock, you saw those people all performing a song. It takes a lot for somebody to get up and go to your product. Like, you have to go buy a CD. Even I, as a huge music fan, it takes nothing for me to pop in. I'll be like, oh, I'll put you in my queue. I'll listen to you later. It took a lot more. Like, we would invest in albums. I told people, I listened to Cannabis's first album multiple times, and I hated it. But I knew it. I was like, dog, I spent $20 on this album. I'm getting every spin out of this album as possible. So it's different. It says a lot to me for an artist to sell out a venue like 713 Music Hall. People got dressed and came out, and they knew the lyrics, and they bought the merchandise.
Oh, they bought it.
So that like, that's my thing, where I was like, so if this man don't have enough juice to be on, I mean, he's on, and I would liken it to, I'm like, I don't even know if he's even trying to necessarily get on the radio. Because I'm like, you're on everything else. I'm not saying he's opposed to it, but it's just like, we saw an interview was with Wendy Day, and she's like, nah, I can't do nothing with you with $10,000 to get on the radio. And I'm like, $10,000 and nothing. They're like, yeah, nah, you need way more than that to get on the radio. So it gets to the point where it's like, so what necessarily do I really need the radio for? Because all of us are not going to be Rihanna.
Absolutely.
All of us are not going to be Drake. All of us are not going to be Doja Cat. So I'm like, I don't have $100,000 to invest and possibly maybe get an inkling of a career that those artists have.
Exactly.
What do you tell your artists? Because now you're on that end where you're the administrator, you're the boss, and you're telling people like, hey, this is how we're going to handle your career. How do you explain to your artists the way that the culture and the environment that they're moving into in terms of music is going to go?
Well, first and foremost, they need to understand what independent is, right? It is by definition what it is. And a lot of the, kind of how we structure and work with our artists, we partner with our artists. We have we're considered a hybrid, right? So we a la carte everything that we do. So if we decide to work with you, then we're going to work with you only on a partnership. We have no ownership in any of your masters. We only do administration for the publishing. So you own all your publishing. It's truly, I'm kind of like, it's truly, I'm here to help, to be a solution. That's why I decided to get on the educational side,
Mhm.
because you hear so many artists that the reason why they leave their label is because they got screwed over. And but in theory, they really didn't get screwed over. They just didn't understand what they were reading. And no one was there, or they were not equipped enough to understand what a basically they hear the word 360 but really don't understand it. And what I try to tell the artists is, look, anytime if I'm going to give you $100, right? This is business, it's not personal. I'm going to be looking for a return on that $100 that I gave you. So if it's 150 or if it's 200, then what are we arguing about? Right? I'm not a bank. Record labels are not a bank. You know, when I'm teaching the students, you got to understand, it's record labels are not banks. And what a lot of, and when you paint it in this picture, and I'll explain it very quickly. If I walk into a bank and try to get a loan to support my music career, you're automatically going to get denied.
Mhm.
If I go into the bank and try to get a loan to support the music business side of the career, they may say yes, but they're going to ask me, well, how much collateral do you have? Meaning, how much publishing, how much catalog do you own? Because they look at that as an asset. So if you're coming into the game with nothing, but someone is willing to advance you this, understanding, if you decide to leave, that $50,000, that $10,000 that they gave you, and just say you don't sell any record, they're not going to go report that on your credit report. You walk away scot-free. They have to assume that loss, they being a label. So understanding, when I'm talking to the artist, I'm talking to them from an independent perspective. You are going to be a partner in your own label. So you have to understand the business, you have to understand the old business to understand how the industry works, to how it's working now. And once you put it in that perspective, then they could spin off and do everything, because it's all foundational. The industry is not changing foundationally. There's always going to be publishing. There's always going to be copyright. There's always going to be ownership of masters. There's always going to be co-pub. There's always going to be every mechanical royalty, sync royalties. All this stuff is always going to always be there. It's the foundation. But when you don't understand the laws that protect that kind of stuff, then you lose. You lose. And this is why people are basically leaving labels, or not, they're leaving labels on pennies on the dollar. Like pennies. When you break it down, it's literally pennies on the dollar.
Wow. And you know, it's interesting when you see I mean, because hip hop now it has been out for quite some time, and you're hearing artists describe, like, we've heard. I mean, the Locks have come out and be like, "Hey, man, we was tripping on leaving Bad Boy." Like, they was like, "Nah, it wasn't as bad as what we was saying, but we didn't understand everything that's going into it." You're seeing older artists say that. You're seeing Nori on Drink Champs, where he's describing, like, "Nah, you're getting a loan from the record label and they want their money back." Like, you know what I mean? And if you sell a great album and you still don't get them their money back, they'll give you more of an advance for the second album, but they want their money back from the first album and this album. And so he goes, that's how. So it's like, if you're not on top of your money, you're just not going to be on top of it. But you're also seeing newer artists like Vince Staples, where he said, like, on his last album, man, I made this album for sync licensing. I'm trying to get into movies. I had one song get in a video game or a movie, and the amount of money that it put out eclipsed any of the money I've been getting. He goes, why am I trying to go to radio? For what? Like, he goes, the only thing to go to radio is for me to show y'all that I'm an artist. Yay. Exactly. Nah, if my money pop up in a movie, he goes, so all these songs was made to go straight to movies, straight to video games, straight to television. That's how I'm getting my money. And you see he's successful with it. So that's a huge thing.
So watch it. So, you know, the one rapper here in Houston, and I respect all of them, right? But it's one from a business perspective that really understood the game, and that was Slim Thug.
Yes. I don't know why I just knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say him too. Go ahead.
And listening, like understanding Slim, like, and how he maneuvered within the industry from a music perspective.
Oh yeah.
He made his own decisions. He was his own distribution, right? As long as he had a car, he could move around. And his system was phenomenal. Now, that, I mean, the ways of doing that, you know, it's probably still feasible, but it's not as profitable these days. And so artists like that, I'm not going to say they're hurting, but, you know, they have to really understand technology and, you know, implement those same principles and methods into the digital world. But the one move he made, and it probably sums up what we're talking about, when he signed that deal with
Star Trek.
Star Trek. One album, I'm gonna give you all this, and it's take it, it's yours. But what did that do to that guy's career?
Ooh, blew it up. How many people say they have a song with Gwen Stefani, Beyonce, Pharrell, The Clips, all in a two-year span?
Exactly.
Yeah. All number one.
And
all number one.
And lay down the blueprint for a Jay-Z hit song. Because even Pharrell's like, dog, that song came from Slim Thug's album. Like, I was like, oh, you're right. It did come from his album, because you can hear his voice in the back. Like, you're like, oh, okay. So that definitely set him up.
Yeah. So it's just stories like that, man, that when you know who's doing what and doing it well, when you see them evolve. Like music now is like a business card. Like you just, this is the introduction to what I'm really going to be doing down the road. So if you take that approach, but don't get it twisted. You have to give it 100%. Like, you just can't come in here just half-ass and think that, you know, I'm gonna spend $2,000 and my music is gonna blow up. It doesn't work that way. We right now, to this day, because we have an inspirational side to our label as well, and we have a particular record that just reached 250,000 in streams total, right? And we've been working that record for 3 years now, since 2018. We're in 22. So it'll be 4 years in, like, I think we released it in October of 18. And on all platforms, we have a little over 250,000, which, you know, now that album and that single qualifies for, you know, it qualifies for for a streaming award now. For having you got to have over, I think it's 150,000 streams for a particular album or a single, which is correlated with the album. So that's the cool thing about streaming. If one song on your EP is the best song, the whole album is rewarded for that.
Yeah, we call that the Drake.
Yeah.
And what's his name? The dude
and
from
and that's not even shade against Drake. I
Yeah.
always think that Drake, because I said I'm not always the fan of everything he puts out, but when he gets a single and it blows, he's like, dog, this is on the new album. I don't care if the new album comes out a year and a half from now. We'll keep on working this. And when that new, and so the second that album drops, they're like, oh, this is already platinum. Like, yeah, because he been working this single for a year and a half, easily.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, technology just gives us time, man. Like I actually love it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love it. It was when I left Music World in 2013. This is when the streaming, like this whole digital world, just started to kind of go ahead and take its plight to be the new norm. You know, we were still pushing CDs, man, when I was at Music World. So
you know what? Let's talk about that, because we want to talk about
go back to that.
What brought you over to Music World? What was your job when you were over there at Music World?
What brought me to Music World? So, and not only am I a DJ, but I remember I told you guys I had to create my own platforms. But in creating my own platforms, I started promoting concerts, not showcases, but concerts. So we were breaking the artists that I would spin, we would bring them into concert to perform. And so you know, like even I think our one of our greatest acts that we brought when Marcia Ambrosius came back into, remember she had a long hiatus?
Yeah.
And we brought her back. We brought her to Houston, and she was on the show. I think we had her with Eric that day, like Avery Sunshine, Jesse Boykins. Like we had, you know, different shows with all those artists. So my wife, who, you know, she's an AK from Texas Southern, her line sister was the label head at Music World. And so she was like, I didn't know your husband was behind this. Is this something that he could do for our artist at Music World? And of course, I was like, yeah, because I mean, what was I doing at the time? I was just at the moment, I was just being a serial entrepreneur. Honestly, I wasn't even teaching. I was just really, you know, in the entrepreneur space, you know, in that moment, DJing and shows. That's all I was doing in that time frame. And so with all that being said, you know, I started working for them like 2007 or 8. Man, on the ground floor. When I say ground floor, I mean I was a step above giving coffee. All right. I didn't have to do any of that stuff, but I was responsible for implementing their whole digital department. I was a digital coordinator. So I was responsible for elevating that and switching that up. And man, I went from there to VP of artist management. So I started managing the acts that we have, all the frontline acts, and then went from there to still doing that. But then when she decided she was leaving, she was like, hey, I want to train you for what I do. So I became the actual label head for Music World, and in addition to that, working his catalog. And look, let me just say this. Matthew has an extensive catalog, man. Oh my goodness. From country and western to Shaka Khan to the OJs, you name it, he has it, right? And so I got my experience in administration work doing that. But and so I had a good track, you know, I was running the, you know, just a lot at the time. We were really heavy into gospel. And so that's when we had the relationship with BET Sunday's Best. And we were, you know, with Leandria Johnson and all the acts that, you know, won the show, they automatically came to us. And then we would sign the runner-ups too of the show. So So that's how we built the gospel division. It kind of, just long story short with that, Matthew's philosophy was Destiny's Child, I'm gonna break them, they're gonna be successful, but I want to pull them individually and then bring them back together. Right. So he had to create something for Michelle. So that's when he created Music World Gospel. So that piece became, that part became prevalent kind of right when I got there. So I was just kind of like really trying to build that part up because everything else was already in place. And so and so just kind of being able to work with, with all the different types of music, I said, well, what's next? And so he started, you can kind of see the writing on the wall, man. Like he just really was not, he was cutting all the frontline acts. He was selling them off.
Okay.
Selling them off. B left. Then, it was just like when I think that inflated him when she left. And so he called me on April 1st. Hey man, Chris, we're gonna go another direction. I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, we just gonna work the catalog, right? Nah. Just let me know if you need anything from me. We moving in another direction. I wish you the best. But what people felt, I mean, when I tell this story, like he did on April Fools, I had my wife was pregnant with our young one. So I'm just like, what am I gonna do at this point? Right? I've been there for 6 years. Like, what am I gonna do now? And so of course, he gave me his blessing. He was like, listen, man, you have all my connections and relationships, utilize them. And henceforth, that's kind of how BPM was birthed. And my wife was telling me, look, you need to leave. Like, I was like, no, because I'm a loyal guy. And she was just like, sometimes God just got to pull the rug from underneath your feet.
That's true.
So did she say I told you so when you called her on April 1st? Like, what did she say? Well, or was she like, I didn't even see that coming? Like, what'd she do?
No, well, she didn't say I told you so, but in so many words, you gonna listen to me, right? You gonna listen to me. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. But like I said, man, it propelled me because Matthew opened a lot of doors for me. Matthew is he's a really good guy, man. If you want to learn, now he's not gonna pay you probably what you're worth. But that's, everybody knows that story. I mean, he'll pay you, but he ain't gonna pay you what you're worth. You go ask Darkchild that. He was like, hey man, look. He told Darkchild, like, this is Beyonce, man. You should want to do a record for her. And he did it. It was number one.
You pay my bills. Can you pay the telephone bills?
I mean, you gotta take the ebb and the flow. It's kind of like who was the producer that kept doing stuff for Lil Wayne, and people were like, "Why he keep making these hits?" I was like, "Dog, it's Lil Wayne." Like, I understand you deserve to get paid, all that stuff. However, we also know you because of Lil Wayne, and now you can go do other stuff. Like. So you gotta, sometimes you just gotta make a decision and be like, all right, I'm gonna take the L on this one. So I can get ahead. Yeah.
Exactly. I picked my poison, right? And I just injected that poison into my vein until I couldn't take it no more. And well, actually until he just took the needle out and I was just gone, man. Because it really it was a really good learning experience. In such a short time, I was able to see the industry evolve as a whole, kind of where it was at its on the downslide of physical sales to watching it elevate into where streaming is going. And I think he kind of got really scared of that part because he was letting everybody go, and the team was just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I don't think he knew how to work in that environment. He's a smart guy, but man, Matthew had done it all, man. You just think about what he's done. I can say that I learned from the best music executive in this time and artist manager.
Definitely.
The best.
Yeah.
You can't pay for that kind of education for 6 years, man. So it was truly the school of hard knocks.
You got your bachelor's and your master's with him, like 6
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. And so, and that's why really no one can say anything bad about him to me. I've like you said, Devon, like I learned, I chose to be there, understanding the circumstances. I knew that walking into it.
Yeah.
But you understanding that this was a place that I would actually drive by and say, hey man, one day I'm gonna work at a label. I mean, I didn't feel Rap-A-Lot was gonna be that spot, but maybe what is here locally that I can do it. I didn't do an internship with anybody. It was just off of the relationship of my wife and her line sister, who actually happened to be at Music World. But when I got there, it was just the work ethic, man. It's just hard work. I was like 34, 35 years old at the time. Hell, I was a grown man.
Yeah.
Making pennies, on a 9 to 5. But I was the first one there, last one to leave. But I had access to everything. Wow. And I was, I mean, you say Music World, and I had PJ Martin do a show at House of Darion. I had access to that. I mean, bro, it paid for itself, right?
Absolutely.
And so with that experience, I think I was equipped to step out on my own. But even stepping out on your own in this music game, it's now, I'm here, but I'm still at a ground floor, right? Because it's evolved and it's changing every 2 years, like clockwork. And so now I got to deal with NFTs, and that's a whole nother puppy now. And so, but we have to just kind of carve away. And I've always been that kind of guy, just to carve a niche into a market to where I can sustain, because this is a big industry. You're talking, it's almost $1 trillion industry, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about getting the all the stuff that you learned over there at Music World. What made you decide to move into the realm of education and teach information to students about the music industry?
So there was and I forgot her name because she was there before I was, but she was the head of international operations for Music World. And I was introduced to her because, all the former employees are really close. Like, we all talk. And she was like, when she found out that I was still there, and then I was like, how I left, on a call, on April Fool's call. She kind of, man, I had applied she became a manager for, are you guys familiar with the Creative Circle? It's kind of like a agency for creatives.
Mm-hmm.
And they will find you, really great paying jobs. And the company's still around, but she was just like, hey, Chris, it may not be much, but Houston Community College is like looking for a professor. And since you're fresh from music world, it will be great for you. I mean, you have all the criteria for it. I mean, I already had my master's so in business, so it just all made sense, right? I was just like, you know what? I need a change because I don't like the way it's going. If I can't, if I can't be on CNN or BET and tell everybody like, hey man, the music industry is fucked up. Right? But why don't I just go ahead and just go on a local level and start cultivating that soil and planting those seeds that way into my talent that's in the city, not necessarily artists, but talent on the business side of things. And it's been great, man. Like that's how I got the start. And God bless Aubrey Tucker. He's deceased, but he's the guy that started the actual program at HCC and taught Matthew the music business to where Destiny's Child was birthed at HCC from this guy. So I have been getting nuggets from pillar music folks in the city of Houston. And my mama told me to stay away from teaching. Who's a retired educator. Yeah. She said, stay away. Right. So here I am. Right. So it's definitely my purpose, of what I'm supposed to be doing. And, it's what I love about it is that I can spend time with my family. It's very flexible. I can still run the label. I still dabble and coach baseball, right? I'm an entrepreneur. On the marketing side, I help my wife because she's a wellness coach, so she's very into total wellness. So I'm able to have balance with family and work. And HCC, has allowed me to afford that, amongst, to support my habit, which is music, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
That's good. That's good. And you started out as adjunct, and then tell us about the program. And this is just gonna be me just timing it. I mean, HCC is, when people hear oh, it's Houston Community College. Houston is a massive city, arguably the third largest city in the nation. HCC is a massive infrastructure of college. They have a lot of programs. Our cousin went through their culinary program, which I've always heard is amazing. And he does. Oh no, he's an amazing cook, and he's over
chef, son. Chef.
He is an amazing chef. But it's when you're doing, he does major, huge events for Live Nation and the Toyota Center and things like that. And that's all through HCC. And sometimes people will be like, oh, HCC, but I'm like, nah, you need to see what they have to offer. So
the studio alone. God.
So tell us about the program, because that's the other thing too. We've interviewed a number. Usually when we're interviewing somebody that's a producer, they have touched HCC in some shape or fashion. I've been up there, I've recorded, I was going to school there, I dropped out, I was going to school there, I finished, I was going. So it's always dealing a lot with HCC. So tell us about that music program.
So our program since 2015 has doubled in size. Now, I'm not going to say it's because of me. I'm not going to say that. But hey,
I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Doubled in size. And that's just because of what the program, we've been labeled a hidden jewel for years. And understand that you have the academia side of HCC and you have the workforce side of HCC, right? Two totally different disciplines. And typically when you're dealing with creators, the way the program was structured a long time ago is that you had to have academia and all academia, majority academia with classes in the workforce and what you wanted to do. But what Dr. Tucker, who I was telling you about, and Dr. Scott Gaiman, all these different people decide, like, listen, music business, audio, film, right? They could perform and put people into the workplace as soon as they finish, just like the barber college at the nursing college at HCC, the culinary. And so with that being said, man, it changed the whole gambit of what we can do with music here in the city of Houston. So a lot of our students now, not only are there big engineers for like Live Nation, for the Houston Texans, we have like, I have a, couple of, few of my students are now working at record labels like at Sony. I have another one that's at Def Jam. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're just kind of tired of being the hidden jewel as what we're labeled. But the one thing that I would say, it has to start up top. And when I say start up top on a political side of things, just like you take the evolution of music in the Atlanta scene, how music evolved. It's been, kind of in Atlanta, the mayor, the governor, all of them had to get behind, to bring everybody together, get behind it. But now here in Houston, you have the opportunity to come to HCC, you get a 2-year degree. If you don't like math, you don't have to take it, right? So you can, you have some core classes that you need to have, like English. You need to learn how to write, right? And so if you want to get your associates, then that's when you probably have to dabble into math. You can get a certificate, a level 1 and a level 2. So that means you can have a 12-hour certificate, a level 2 can be an 18-hour certificate, or you can get your associate. So there's 3 ways you can actually walk out of there with experience. And then that's when it's our job as professionals in the industry to connect our students in the industry. And that's why it's important for people like you guys who are doing stuff like all this stuff. This is entertainment, man.
Yeah.
Right. What you guys are doing, we have students who, we're creating, the digital side of the music business department, having podcasts and how to execute podcasts, like those type of things. They're all looking like, some of them love that, but they want to do it in entertainment, and that's it. But entertainment is just bigger than music. It's sports, it's everything. It's a lot of other different facets. And so we make it to where it's transferable into the market. As soon as they leave us, we want them to have a job. So it's very, pertinent that, staying in touch with, guys like yourself, because your reach may be further. Like, hey, HCC has this program, and we want to connect our students with you, right? And so that's kind of been our agenda here for the past 5 years now.
And that's good. I mean, that's honestly good to hear. I do like it when professors talk about not just the idea of, at a collegiate level of instructing and teaching, but also helping you afterwards to move into the professional realm. And I feel like that's changing, but for a while there were a number of professors that were like, no, that ain't my job. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I mean, I'm not just talking about at the professor level. The school was just like, hey, go forth, have fun. Like we did everything we need to do. We'll talk to you in a year when we need some money for alumni funds. But right. So it's like they were constantly asking for money, but it's like, it's nice to hear somebody be like, nah, we're trying to make sure you working, like you doing something with what we taught you.
Right. And so, with a 2-year school, any like 2-year programs, kind of the history of 2-year programs or associates, man, some students are just not ready to go to 4-year college straight out of high school.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
sure.
we just don't want people to look at a 2-year associate degree as a degree that, oh, you didn't go to college. Yes, you did, because our instruction is just as rigorous as a 4-year.
Mhm.
And it's also crucial that you have programs in which you could transfer these hours too. So understanding, you guys probably know it. UT San Antonio has a music business
Yeah.
program.
Mm-hmm.
Loyola has a music business program. Texas Southern has a music business. All these are 4-year programs, and Loyola in New Orleans.
Mhm.
So all these different programs, if you want to really expand and go deeper, without having to go all the way to Berkeley or going to Nashville to go to Oakmont, to all these different universities in Nashville, in the music cities per se. Well, why can't we not create that here?
Why not? Yeah.
Why can't we do that? There's none in Austin, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's supposed to be the music mecca of Texas.
Yeah.
But there's no, I mean, they offer programs, but not as rigorous as our programs that we have here. So, I really appreciate you guys, man, just really, having me come and speak on that piece, because that is crucial to this cultivating this music industry and just doing it the right way, man.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you for staying in or coming out, or however I say it, because it's just it is really important to let people know that there's more to the music industry than being an artist, because that's great, but there's a lot of moving parts in the infrastructure of music. And I'll say this too. I mean, you just mentioned how people look at Austin as the mecca of music in Texas. Clearly it's Houston, one of the most disrespected cities, in my humble opinion. Pun intended. Clearly it's Houston. Even to the point I've said to my brother and a lot of people, New York used to be the mecca for hip hop, especially for lyrical hip hop. It's Houston now. I stand by that claim. But that is what it is. It is, it's good to have you here. I didn't even do the intro.
We would have, we probably don't have enough time, but I would have to ask you why you would say Houston is basically that there's more wordsmiths here in the city.
We got time. Go ahead, tell them.
All right, the reason being, I mean, when you have people like your Tobys, when you do have people like Paul Wall, that I think people forgot that Paul Wall can rap. When he put out that album with that terminology, well, people like, I forgot that he was like, he can actually put words together. I always talk about Slim Thug's my favorite rapper. All right. Now, I say this all the time to everybody. And then, I mean, behind closed doors, when I say that, people be like, really? Slim Thug? You're like a hip hop guy. I'm like, look, Slim Thug, when he freestyles, I'll stand by this. Somebody might get mad. Hell, Slim might get mad at me. First few lines, nothing to shake a stick at. They're okay. He's the boss of the North. But once he gets to about that 5th, 6th line and he gets his flow in, you can't stop him. Then he's rhyming stuff that you've never heard before. We have one of my favorite underground rappers, DeLorean. He can rap better than anybody. Rob Gillette. I'm sorry, like the way that I look at it, I've listened to I listen to a lot of Coast. A lot of East Coast rappers are trying to do what we're doing out here, and they're kind of coasting. When it comes to lyrics, they're coasting. Well, we have it out here. These people are actually putting together songs. They're actually, I mean, come on, the best rapper right now got his sauce from out here. A Canadian had to come to Houston to get his sauce, and he could rap. So that's why I stand by it. And once again, Slim Thug's the greatest rapper ever. But that's why I stand by it.
You also look at, we talked about like the longevity or the amount, like that Bun B concert.
Oh my goodness.
Was just the tip of the iceberg of what Houston has to offer. And it's like, I mean, even on this thing, we've talked about Devin the Dude. But I mean, if you go back, Devin the Dude, Scarface, K Reno, like Willie D, and you've got that generation, and then you have you know, DJ Screw and the ones that come after him, you know, DJ Screw, ESG, Hawk, Big Mo. You got another generation of people coming up. Then you have another generation where coming almost concurrently, but Swisher House is right along with him. Then you got another generation like in the 2010s, 2005, 2010, where it's Propane and DeLorean and Rob Gillette and stuff. And now you got a whole new one where it's Megan Thee Stallion, Sauce Walker, Tisa Korean, all of these artists that Travis Scott, where because now it's getting to the point where I mean, you know, and of course Beyonce and all these artists.
Forgot Beyonce can rap. She out rap Jay-Z on that whole album.
Well, we talk about but I'm just talking about
the quarters.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Beyonce gets to rap, and I like Beyonce rapping. That's one of my favorite. Beyonce rapping is just unbeatable to me. I love it. But the thing is, too, it's like you've got these wild, long-lasting generations of people that still put out music. ESG about to drop something in a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? It's like you still have them that can put out viable music and interact with each other. Right. It would be nothing for me to be, oh yeah, like ESG and Propane got a song together. It's nothing to say Zero has a song out with his new artist
Lolita
Monroe. And it's like, yeah, this is,
and he just dropped the album last Friday.
It's a long line of musical artists, and you can kind of like just pick and grab. And I don't see too many other, and this is not to just shit on any other city. It's just, I don't think that any other city is doing that and not getting the look the way I feel like it, because Houston doesn't get the look. I'm like, I feel like people are like, oh, Houston, like it's great. Like I feel like, but every time you see people, like I feel like people started discovering us during the pandemic. They was like, oh, Houston open, we'll go down there. Yeah. Oh, Houston, nice. You're like, okay.
And even TikTok. DJ Chose had on TikTok.
DJ Chose.
I want to see the bottom. Let me see. You started from the. Thank you.
Beat King, DJ Chose, like DJ EXO, where you've got these guys where it's like, first of all, the amount of DJs and producers that are coming out here and doing the sound of top 40 radio. So it's like you find out, it's like, oh, I like that Migos song. It was from a producer here. I like that Megan Thee Stallion song. You know that all of her stuff is mostly from a producer from here.
Yeah, Sergeant J.
So that's a big thing. Well, I mean, what do you think?
I mean, well, we provide the product, right? Houston, everyone comes here to Houston to pull our musicians, our singers, our artists, and pull them away. I mean, we can, let's look at Robert Glasper.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We have a high school of performing arts, right? We have, you know, the last background singer to ever be with Prince and Tamar Davis.
Yes.
Who can blow the socks off the wall. I mean, just small names like that. So I'm agreeing with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
The problem is our consumer base does not understand what we have here.
Oh, that's definite. We're in the streets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that is why we're overlooked for shows.
Well, also, I would say, and I'm not to interrupt you, but our consumer base does not know. They definitely don't know. But I'm like, it's just like you said, where it's like, you can play we can all say the same thing. You play a Toby song for somebody and they're like, oh, who's that? And you play it. My biggest critique is this should have been on the radio. Like this should have been on the radio here. Like we shouldn't have to wait for it to break in New York or Atlanta or Los Angeles, because they don't wait to break their artist.
No.
And I know people would be like, whatever. And I was like, look, I mean, I like A$AP Rocky. A$AP Rocky exists because Hot 97 was down the street from it.
Yeah.
They saw those kids, they saw the movement that they had, and they was like, come up to the radio. And when you come up here, when we broadcast to the world. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it
Right.
comes down to. And so it's like there is this, and I mean, look, we know New Yorkers. New Yorkers love New York. That's why and I'm like, dog, whoever come out of New York, that's why every year there's like, oh, this is the next king of New York. Whether anybody else cares, they care. They're like, yo, who next? This the one? Oh, we all jamming Pop Smoke? That's all we jamming. That's it. This is what's gonna pop out. Whoever the next guy is, that's what's gonna pop out. I don't care if y'all like that music or not. This is now the sound of New York. So y'all gonna hear it. And
LA
so
is
we
the
should be the
same
same way.
LA is definitely the same.
LA
way.
Oh yeah. LA's like, yo, this our sound.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear it.
We back in Kendrick Lamar. All right, we with that.
That's
TDE,
it.
okay, we with that.
Yeah.
Nipsey, okay, we with that.
I remember that concert where Snoop and gave Kendrick Lamar. I didn't know who Kendrick Lamar was. They gave that man that chain. They said, yo, this dude's the next to rep West Coast. And I was like, I don't even know who he is, but let me go listen. And then it was Kendrick Lamar. And so of course it was
2012.
But that's one of the things here where it's like I see the same level of, I feel like, respect, at least amongst I'm not saying all the artists like each other. They don't. But I also do see all the artists, I don't see a lot of them big up each other. This show kind of exists because artists will be like, yo, go talk to him. Yo, give this such as number. Da-da-da-da-da, do this, do that. A lot of the articles that I wind up doing is literally because it's just by word of mouth. Yo, you want Slim's number? Here you go. Oh, okay. That's lit. So there's definitely an openness amongst the artists. It's just when you release something, it got to go somewhere. I got to send it to somewhere that can send it out to other people. And we don't have that infrastructure here. That infrastructure is lacking.
I really, really, truly thought that 93
7. I
really thought they were going to come in and just change the whole game of the music scene here. But they end up falling in line just like 97. I mean, like I said before, man, like I don't have to mention names. That comment that she made it blew my mind. It's just it's no way that I go to Atlanta, right? Where Trey is a part of Grand Hustle, and I can listen to every radio station in Atlanta, and every Trey song pretty much is on the radio.
Yeah.
But I can't listen to his music here. And 93 won't play it because 97 won't play it for the most part, unless a DJ is spinning. I'm talking about rotation.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
And that's a big thing where it's like, and that's the other thing too. It's not just because we've been seeing like the one-offs, like, hey, we like this artist, come up and we're going to play some snippets from your album. We'll play a couple of songs. But I said the power is in like, I'm sorry, there are songs that I have genuinely hated when I first heard it. But after I heard it for the 70th time, like, I was like, oh, like, I'm like, it kind of grew on me. So there's something to be said about making sure that these are on rotations and playlists, and that music is not getting out there. And it's the infrastructure, and I don't know what it is, because like you can bring up an artist like Toby, and when people say like, oh, his music is not for me, but I'm like, Instagram says differently.
Yeah,
like it might not be for you, but if this is a money-making business, if millions of people are listening to this over here, there's nothing stopping them from listening to it over here and you selling radio ads. So that's my thing. Like, that's why I was genuinely surprised that some of his stuff hasn't popped up on the radio in a higher demand. But for me, the question is, the problem has always been like, it's the infrastructure.
It's the culture that has been put in place here for a long time.
Yeah.
When Kiss 98, basically when Radio 1 took over Kiss 98, you guys remember, y'all from here, so I'm not, but I used to get the music, the stations from Houston and Beaumont. Dude, we would listen to hip hop.
Yes.
And record it.
Yeah,
We would listen to disco and record it.
absolutely.
Like we gotta listen to this show tonight. Because I mean, music was just the culture here in Houston for a while. I mean, how you have one of the biggest jazz scenes and it goes away. And now if I get into the history of Third Ward and how all that came about, I mean, like you're all the greatest.
It's so deep. When you look up, I did an article on the El Dorado Ballroom. But when you look at the El Dorado Ballroom, and we were just with my grandma the other day, and she was talking about the matinee.
Yeah.
And she's like, but the way she's talking about little artists that came through, and you're like,
little
Patti LaBelle, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like,
Sammy.
These are the people that were coming through, and they're like, oh yeah, they used to they be up there. I mean, especially when you're talking about during time, like the El Dorado was popping when it's segregation. Like they're like, nah,
absolutely,
you go into the El Dorado because they're not going to take us nowhere else. And they were like, yo, this was just a massive club, and everybody came through here. Ray Charles is coming through here. Like everybody that's blues or jazz related is going to come through this city. All of our singers are coming through this city. And then it was just like a finger snap, and they're like, oh, it just didn't. And we're not getting that look the same way, like, like people will say Nashville, and Nashville is music. Like Nashville got music. And you're like, yeah, but they don't talk about Houston like that.
No.
And everybody came through here.
To blues, to rock. I mean, golly, we've had it all.
I mean, just how the music scene was even here back in the day. I mean, even going from Freedmanstown, how they ever. I got the story of Sammy Davis coming up the bayou, like because of the Freedmanstown was the real prominent part of where Black Houston was, right? Mm-hmm. And so how they would have to, they would pull them up, this all during segregation, they would come on a boat up the bayou, dock in Freedmanstown, and Jack Yates would have to caravan them on horse and carriage to the El Dorado Ballroom to perform. And then sneak them back out, because that is what the city of Houston gave them for entertainment. And that was their little corridor.
Oh yeah.
St. John's Baptist Church on Emancipation, all like that little area was just their entertainment corridor. But you had to go through Freedmanstown in order to even get there. It was a route they had to take to get there.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, man, it's so rich in culture. And then to have that culture taken away. Nashville has always been Nashville. It was country, right? I mean, that's the birthplace of Elvis. So, I mean, it's always been rich in music, but all music?
Yeah.
Come on. Who said?
Exactly.
Who said?
Well, you know who said.
Elvis is terrible.
Well, I'm about to say one group of people said, and you know what? Yeah. There's a great documentary on Amazon. It's called For Love or Country, and they talk about upcoming Black artists that are doing country music. And they particularly talk about, like, why Nashville is a country music city, because it's very much controlling who's allowed in and out of country.
Yeah, that's true.
And, how we even came to country. I mean, we came to country at, Ray Charles has a whole lot to do with why we classify things as country and R&B. Because that man put out a fantastic country album, and the white people at the time were like, I don't know what to classify this as, because it's definitely country, but he's Black. So
which they still do to this day.
This is rhythm and blues now.
Yes.
And it's the thing where we're talking about now, where it's like, we like to say we progress, but Then you see Doja Cat win a bunch of
R&B?
R&B awards. And she's like, well, I'm a pop rapper. And they go, well,
She cleaned up.
but you're black.
Yeah.
So,
Black blood in
no,
there.
no, no. Go ahead. What were you going to say about that?
But what I will say is this. We have taken, right, African Americans, for the most part, has taken the soul out of R&B,
Yes.
which is again systemic, all going all the way back to gospel, right? And when I think I can't pinpoint the era, but I'm going to go on record and probably say 2000s, early 2000s, when the R&B substance of R&B changed, when Teddy Riley influenced and infused the hip hop sound, and hip hop and R&B just kind of meshed itself together with New Jack Swing. When that elevated and came about, that's when I started to hear the R&B world change and understand the R&B and soul world was the heartbeat of music. I mean, it goes all the way back to the Roaring '20s. When you listen to bebop and all, I mean, it just has the elements of love, and because basically that's what soul music is, but it has all the elements of this. I teach in one of my theory classes, all about vaudeville. You guys familiar with vaudeville and kind of how um, when it talks about it's really relative to us, because back then slavery was prevalent and we really had to entertain them, right? But the book won't depict and say, hey, you guys were the ones that were really involved. So it was burlesque and all the different things that came with it. But man, we go so far back into this music and entertainment world, it's almost scary to see that the majority of the industry still it has not elevated financially or benefited financially from it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's scary.
No,
Even if you take a church, gospel is by far the lowest paid.
Oh, definitely.
But it's the first.
Yeah.
It's the first.
Everybody comes to,
in the fields, right? It's the first.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
and just to see how things are, it's just, again, that's probably a whole nother topic, man.
Look, we'll definitely have to have you back on, because we could talk for a while about some of the topics we got into. First off, just so people know, so the audience knows, how can they find you, get in contact with you, see what you're doing, follow the stuff with HCC, or follow the stuff as DJ Cruise Control or the label?
Yeah, so if people want to reach me, I'll just give one handle, which is I'm on IG and Twitter and Facebook, and it's DJ Cruize Control, like cruise control in your car, but with a Z. That's the only difference. But I did want to mention, y'all mind me throw a shameless plug, that we do have an emerging artist stage, right?
All right.
It's called Beat This. That's kind of what Avery, what you read in the profile. But Beat This is an emerging artist stage for those that are serious about their music career. They're kind of there and they've never performed on a sound stage before, because it's a full production. We're in local acts, regional acts, national acts. We're trying to make this the Blue Note, right? And so we do it downtown at Hickey and Pollitt. It's typically the third Saturday of the month, but it's always towards the latter part of each month. So we'll be, doing. We just started May 14th was our first one. Our next one is June 25th. That's an all hip hop show. So if you guys have never heard of the Grind, DAGRIND, they're between Houston, Dallas. You talk about wordsmiths with music. We have a live band that performs with each and every act. That's the only way you can get on the stage is to perform with a live with a live band. So it just elevates the experience, right? So we're going to have them, August Keys, and we have another artist who's from Louisiana, but his name is Mochi, Mochii.
Yeah.
But if you go to our Beat This BEATTHIS on Instagram, you can follow us on there, and we're posting about the show pretty frequently. So we're all about growing that and taking it regionally into other cities within the state of Texas and Oklahoma, and then eventually we want to make it into a festival.
Okay, no,
you got a plan.
Yes,
that sounds good. And when we talk about building out infrastructure, that's some of the stuff we talk about. Like when people are looking for avenues to display their talent or to hone their craft or to see other people doing it so that they can get better themselves. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. And the caveat of this is this. We've partnered with the 24-hour music station called Music Head Radio. You guys probably need to interview this young lady. All right.
Absolutely.
And so it's Music Head, Music, MUZIKHED, Music Head Radio. And she's a 24/7, and she pays royalties to our acts, right?
Really?
Yeah. So they perform. If we accept you to perform, because you have to submit your music, we listen to it like, yo, hey, bam, we'll make it happen. She's gonna give you 30-day rotation on the station. She'll do a station takeover, and it's our job to make sure that her station survives, because she's probably one of few Black-owned 24 around the clock stations in which we are really helping her build. So it's when you talk about movement and helping folks really build within the music industry, this is how it's supposed to look in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just taking a page from Berry Gordy. I'm taking pages out of how Atlanta built their music scene. And so that's all we want to do. And so we're bringing, we have Jack Freeman. You guys familiar with Jack Freeman?
Oh, absolutely. He's been on the show a couple times.
Jack will be performing on the 25th. We're bringing Sam Trunk. He's rebranded, but Sam Trunk is a jazz artist. We're working on Be On It. You guys familiar with Be On It?
No.
Oh man, they're a fusion hip hop and R&B band.
Okay.
Check them out.
There.
We're working, cross our fingers, working on, Masego and all these different, like, that's the vibe. And, Godspeed, if I get my boy Robert Glasper to come on. So if you watching this, my brother, I need you to come and bless your boy stage, man. So yeah, man, we're giving all these opportunities as a full-out production. And in addition to that, we pay the artists on their second show, because they'll perform 2 different shows. They'll open up, and then we'll give them more of a not a headline, but kind of middle act. And we're trying to share in the revenue, right? So that's kind of how all this stuff works. So we're looking for vendors. We always are looking for sponsors in that realm as well. But we're trying to build this music community, just kind of brick at a time, man. So it's a plan.
No, it sounds like a good plan.
We'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes.
Well,
you guys got to come out, man. check it out.
Yeah, we be out in the street, so
We'll definitely be out. We'll definitely be out. Also, if Robert Glasper watches this show, come on the show. But yeah, go ahead.
Once again, like I said, I want to thank you for coming out or staying in, as we say. We really just want to, thank you for everything that you're doing when it comes to the music industry, because you got to let people know exactly what's going on. It's not just dropping out of school and rapping at open mics. You got to learn the business. There's a huge business in this. So, hey, like I say, thank you. Humbly yours. I'm Avery, like a very nice guy. That's my brother, Jess Devon. And we've had DJ Cruise Control. Thank you, guys. H-Town's too sweet. H-Town is too sweet. Bye-bye.
Also, I've got y'all DMs about my room. I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up. All right. So multiple people have texted.
We have plans.
Dog, we're working on something, but they've been like, dog, what is going on behind you? And I was like, oh man, clutter. So I'm gonna get that taken care of soon.
We have plans.
Yes.
We have a big plan.
Humbly yours. Thank y'all for joining.
This was live on Instagram and on Facebook, man. Like
nah. This ain't even like
this
is live. We don't do any live shows or anything like that.
Not yet.
That's it.
All right. Well, we got to work on that, man.
We're gonna get it together.
We have a plan. We do.
Music Head Radio, man. It's a platform. I'm telling you.
No, I'm with it.
I'm telling you.
I'm with it. No.
I'm telling you.